But we're going to start the show talking some money and taking a look at the big spenders this summer. 4 of the 5 hail from the Premier League. Chelsea lead the way with $282.7 million spent. Liverpool not too far behind with $247.8 million invested in the squad, which is a big change from last summer when Liverpool didn't really spend a ton of money. Didn't end up needing to. They went on to win the Premier League title, but that has not been the case this summer. They've invested a lot of money and into some big names as well, like Florian Wirtz, who's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders. So when you look at what Liverpool have done, and they also might be making some more moves, don't look to be done quite yet, Lahoud, what's the expectation for this team now, and how much does that kind of like up the pressure a little bit for Arne Slot in the squad?
Well, I want to say this. I don't see much pressure on Arne Slot. The expectations there, though, compete for the Champions League and defend your Premier League title. Arne Slot has bought himself a ton of currency with Liverpool Football Club. When you come in the way he did, you win a Premier League title in your first season, but the most important thing he did, you managed to keep Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk to believe in the project and sign that contract. I mean, Liverpool fans would be very grateful for him. And I just wonder if we're talking about a side, because of some of the signings they're getting, because they're linked to a player like Hugo Ekitike, who can compete and truly win a Champions League title like a Barcelona or PSG.
You don't think there's a certain obligation for them to win a trophy this season?
Oh, win a trophy, yes.
Right, that's an obligation. That's some pressure, right?
The pressure.
And like, I'm not talking League Cup,
cooker.
I'm not talking FA Cup. It feels the way that they've strengthened their squad. Like, he's not going to get fired if they don't win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we're talking about that. That's not the conversation. But entertain me. Let's say with the amount of spending that they've done, because this is very almost uncharacteristic of Liverpool to go out and really make a splash with so much money, like specifically this in one transfer window. What do? Walk away trophyless. That dials up the pressure for next season.
Absolutely, yeah.
It also depends how you compete, too. Yeah. Like, are you going down to the last day and you're fighting for a Premier League title? Do you go to a Champions League semifinal? And now the expectations, they absolutely have risen, right? Because last year, most people were talking about Manchester City for the title, and they were talking about Arsenal for the title. Very few had Liverpool in that conversation. Now, they have a target on their back. Every single week when they go to play anyone, we want to beat the champions. That's how we make a statement. So they have that, but then they also have the players. But getting those players, signing the players, and the caliber of players that they've signed in the fullbacks with Wirtz, Ekitike, if it goes through, that improves this squad tremendously. So for me, I want to see them make a deeper run in the Champions League.
It feels like the team has changed a lot, too. I think it's going to be a challenge for Liverpool. I think they can get it done because the team has so much quality. The squad has so much quality. And you're taking away a couple of pillars of the team, right? So I'm interested to see this next iteration of what Arne Slot can put together. I don't know where our stock was before for Arne Slot. Now it's risen tremendously because he was able to translate what he was doing at Feyenoord, give Liverpool a couple of tweaks. Yes, he inherited a very good team, a club with a lot of structure. But this is like phase 2 has incrementally shifted from what the team he inherited. It looks like a different team. He's going to be able to put his own seal on. Do you think
this phase 2 is more of a challenge for Slot than phase 1 was coming in to a new job?
Good question.
They always say, coaches that have won before, they say it's very difficult to win, but what's even more difficult is winning again. Because going back to back is nearly impossible, right? There's very few that are able to achieve that.
Yeah,
but I think
City.
Except City. But there's outliers, of course. But they're also signing certain players who are at a level that they're not young players that we have question marks about. Frimpong is an amazing player. Florian Wirtz is an amazing player. True. They're helping raise that level, and I see them as the clear favorites for the Prem. But if they didn't play PSG, who went on to win the Champions League, how far would they have gone in the Champions League, right? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves. So the expectations are very high, and they're signing certain players here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the difference between what we saw in that match against PSG. You sign players to compete against a PSG and also win a Premier League title, and that's why I go back to the pressure. Look, you said it, that the pressure dials up when you make these signings the year after, not this season. You do have to compete, and you get a player like Hugo Ekitike to compete and ensure you can compete at the very highest level. He's a proper player. You and I both have covered him this past season. He can get the job done.
Well, Nico, when you think about Hugo Ekitike and how he could fit in to this Liverpool team. The team was also linked to Alexander Isak, which I feel like every big team in the Premier League has been linked to him because what he's done with Newcastle is incredible, and he's Premier League proven. His production's insane. But Hugo Ekitike is an interesting player because he really impressed in the Bundesliga, but you just haven't seen that, and in the Europa League, but you haven't seen that in the Premier League, so you're kind of taking a gamble in that sense. But how would he fit into this Liverpool squad, and would you like it as a fit for them?
I think it would be a good fit. Again, I'm convinced that Hugo Ekitike is very, very, very good at football, right? He's crafty, he can finish, he can score goals, he can fulfill a certain quota. Again, I said the same thing about Darwin Núñez, and Darwin Núñez feels like he's more out than in at Liverpool at the moment. I don't know if he's going to remake himself, but clearly this is an indication that they're looking for a striker that can put up a certain amount of goals. And is Hugo Ekitike the right guy? Indications say yes. I think Isak would have been a much safer bet, obviously, but since that's reportedly not happening and Hugo Ekitike is next in line that they're courting at the moment, Liverpool, I do think there's massive potential. And it's not just for this season, right? He's young. It's for this season, next season, the following. He has a lot of quality, and hopefully, if it happens, it works out for the better for Liverpool.
The other thing that really impresses me from Ekitike that we didn't see in there is also his work rate. He presses with purpose. He gives you that extra bit of, if Arne Slot wants to press high, he's got that in his locker as well. He's a raw player, and I think the biggest question mark is, can he do it under huge pressure? We saw him at PSG. There's a difference. Can he do it when you're playing at Liverpool, where we just said you got to compete for the Premier League title, you got to try to win the Champions League? That's a big question, and that's why there's such a big difference between the price tag of Ekitike and Alexander Isak.
And the cohesiveness of it all with Florian Wirtz, if Hugo Ekitike comes into the mix, and Darwin Núñez, I mean, sadly, we must mention that they're losing something by the passing of Diogo Jota, rest in peace, and he brought so much to the table, right? And how do you replace that, a guy that would like to get stuck in, that always found himself was able to make his way through defenders, charging through, or at the end of balls, he was crafty in tight spaces and a good finisher. He also fulfilled a certain quota that Liverpool lost in Diogo Jota's passing away. So Hugo Ekitike, and maybe that's the reason why they might not want to get rid of Darwin Núñez, because in that position they need depth as well.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, Hugo Ekitike is a better fit than Alexander Isak for the Liverpool Football Club.
Oh, wow.
Isak is proven, but when you play for Liverpool, when you sign a Florian Wirtz, when you sign and have all these players, he's very selfless. And you talk about the importance of Diogo Jota, such a selfless player.
Yeah.
And had such a significant impact in the final third. His ability to create spaces for his teammates is going to be a massive reason, a major reason why I'm putting Liverpool in the mix with a Barcelona, in the mix with a PSG to be one of the favorites to win the Champions League this year.
If Arne Slot can figure out how to get all these pieces firing quickly at the start of the season, I mean,
it's also a nice problem to have.
A great problem to have. Liverpool stock up, but Arne Slot stock up as well. I think
everyone's going to expect this Liverpool to hit the ground running.
But that's not. It's always easier said than done.
100%.
So it's going to be interesting to see what they look like.